Fair enough. Any recommendations on what you would use instead of rescue time? Any alternatives? No? Go for it.
Yeah, one right.
So anybody else got feedback on rescue time? Yep.
I'll be down there in a minute. No, because it's the video, you see. It's not going to come across.
Yeah, we use rescue time. We used it for the trial when we first started out, and then we completely ignored it for about a year, and now we started using the team version again. And one of the guys on the team was a bit funny about it because he liked to work a certain way, and he was worried that it was intimidating hearing the other people's, because it gives you an efficiency score out of 2 for every hour, day, and week. So it can be a bit intimidating, but I find it's brilliant because it just sits in my dock, watches what I'm working on, and automatically categorizes how your day's split up. And it even kind of handles breaks. So if you go for a lunch break, you just pause it. If you go for a meeting, you forget about it. It'll give you a prompt what you did for the last hour, and just generally to keep an eye on it. But like Gavin said, the interface on the web interface is shocking.
It is.
So the application is awesome, but they just need to completely redesign it, and then it would be brilliant. We'll love it.
Great. Any other? Yeah, go for it.
I've actually been using a sort of combination of Toggle and rescue time. I have to say, I thought Toggle I really like its desktop timer. It works really well, and it works offline. So you don't have to, sometimes you have to be connected to the internet all the time. And it also spots when you forget to turn it off. So, you go off for lunch and you come back and it goes, you haven't done anything for an hour. Have you actually been working? And you can say no. What I found rescue time really useful for was literally that thing where you've forgotten to start the timer on a project and you think, shit, how long have I spent, doing this bit of work for clients? You can go into rescue time and think, well, I know all the work I've done today on Word has been, or, in Dreamweaver or whatever tool you're using has been for this particular client, and you can go and say, right, you've spent half an hour in this application, you can go and stick it in your timesheet. I've actually just stopped using Toggle because I've switched over to using Harvest. I don't know, you're going to talk about things like Harvest?
I haven't got Harvest on the list, no.
Harvest is really an invoicing tool, but it has an integrated time tracker. And the thing I really liked about it, the thing I loathe doing bookkeeping. I mean, it's just pathetic, ask me to sort of transfer all our time out of Toggle and write an invoice so that we actually have some money to, eat. We kind of, do I have to? But a friend had said that she'd just started freelancing from last August, and she started using Harvest. And that lets you record all your time in it. The time is not as nice as Toggle's, I have to say, but it means it's all there. And then you can just go in, click a button, invoice people, email the invoice straight from that, it sends them a PDF and it's done. And it also has really nice, you can just go in like a traditional timesheet, which is great because Andy hates using desktop timers. He'd much rather just write it down, like Will said, piece of paper. We don't need all these apps. But then it's really quick. I can just get him to go maybe once a week or once a month and just quickly, in a very standard week view, go, yeah, I spent 3 hours on Tuesday and whatever.
How actually automated is it?
In what way? Just about the sort of invoicing?
I always worry that if I ever used a timer that I would forget to turn it on, or I would forget to say which project it's for, or how do these tools?
That's actually one of the benefits of rescue time, is that if you don't want to use a timer, it logs for you what pages you've been on, what tabs you've been on, what browsers, what applications and what windows you've had open. So if you see that you had a particular window open on your IDE for half an hour, you can flip back through and go, oh yeah, that's a project I worked on, and manually add that into your time recording system, into Basecamp, into your project management suite, or into your scheduler. So that's its main purpose. It's not necessarily a case of having to be vigilant about actually stamping your time on and off. It's a case of literally just letting it run and then going back and analysing the information.
Yeah, so you can just spend sort of 5 minutes afterwards ticking boxes, putting them into categories, and it sort of calculates it for you.
That's basically it.
Sounds good.
Cool.
Yeah, and I think on the paid for option, you can teach it keywords. So it'll try to look at like the title of the web page that you're on, or the title of the Word document. And it's a bit, I sort of use a combination, I'm always forgetting to record my time. This is why I have the sort of combination. So I've got rescue time as a backup, and I think sometimes just writing it down on a piece of paper. Harvest they're still a little bit clunky again, but they have an iPhone and an Android app as well, so it's quite useful if you want to record meetings and times you're not at the computer.
I think on the piece of paper point of view, not necessarily for time tracking, more for focusing your mind on what it is you're actually supposed to be doing, especially if you've got a lot of things to do. Sometimes it can be easy for the mind to wander into Twitter or certain other web pages, whatever. And I find that having a list on a piece of paper in front of you is really helpful. You can tick, box beside it or whatever, and just write down new tasks that need to be done. Put someone comes into your office, sends you an email, whatever.
Actually, one of the benefits of rescue time is that if you do that, and I do it, most of us do it, if your mind wanders and you just sort of click onto Twitter or onto your favourite sites, on rescue time you can set it to block those sites for a certain amount of time or for particular times of the day when you know that your mind wanders. Like, for me, it's just sort of like late afternoon after I've had something to eat, I'm just kind of like, I just want to go, sit back and relax for a bit. But it does block those things for you, and it kind of helps you focus a little bit in that way. But like I said, it's different tools for different people, and if a piece of paper works for you, then that's what works for you. Go for it.
Recently, me and one of my colleagues at our company have started using a technique to try and, because I noticed it's about time management and productivity, to try and kind of get us more focused and get our productivity up, so kind of try and minimise distractions. And I don't know if anyone's heard of it, it's called the Pomodoro technique.
Is that 5 minutes of?
5-minute break and then 25-minute of work, like uninterrupted, and you get like an iPhone app, can just put the timer on your desk, and then you write a to-do list, and then you kind of roughly assume that each task is 25 minutes long. And I've found it really, really helps your focus, because you might be in the middle of something and then you have to take a 5-minute break and you're like, oh God, this is really annoying. I'm literally gonna walk away from my computer. But then you come back and you're just way more refreshed and you look at it a different way, and it's just very helpful. So I'd recommend it to anyone looking at trying to get focused.
Can you send some information across, and then
sure.
That'd be great. Share it out with everyone. Anybody else?
Mark does it as well, as does Rupert.
Anyone else on time management, or we good to got one more?
Sorry, it's just a little one called Let's Freckle, if anybody's seen that. It's probably similar to PayMo more than anything. It's quite simple, but it's a really nice, quick interface. So if you're worried about tracking your time and having to click here and here and here and here, it's very, very fast. It's just 3 little fields that you fill in and press a button and you're done. But it also does invoicing as well, so it's quite good for freelancing.
Great, thank you. The last one on the list is Tick. Has anybody worked with Tick? It's a time management tool that integrates with Basecamp, and it's along the same lines as PayMo. But I would recommend it if you are working on Basecamp on a regular basis. The last one, which is just before I finish off, is software collaboration, which is working on version control. So does anybody use any? I'm not going to go through each one. Does anybody use any of these? Have you got any information you want to share with the guys about your experiences with them and which one you recommend?
We use Git in-house, and we installed Gitorious as like a web panel for that. We use Git because each developer has their own repository, so their code isn't affecting anyone else's. And we're consistently committing and merging the code from the various different repositories. So if someone's broken a core class and the other developer can continue working even if that class is not affecting their code base, basically. And Git was one of the only, well, it is really the only major source control software that allows us to work in this distributed fashion. SVN can't merge in the same way that Git can and as quickly as it can. So yeah, that's why we use it. Also, the other thing is like GitHub's just huge, so any decent open source software is on GitHub. So to get the developers used to using Git and used to using GitHub as a concept as well, I think was fundamental into helping the developers like learn from the other awesome open source projects that were available on GitHub. I think personally, in my mind, GitHub's almost replacing SourceForge now completely. Mm-hmm. If I'm looking for an open source project, if it's not got a GitHub page and if I can't clone it from Git, I won't use it. Apart from the occasional Google Code one, because I think they just refuse to use Git altogether.
I think GitHub is, as you said, is a much more flexible version control system for distributed projects. And for anybody who uses Subversion, I'm not going to say it's difficult to make the switch, but a lot of people are reluctant to make the switch, but I would definitely recommend it. Anybody got any more information they'd like to share on software collaboration tools?
Yeah, we use Subversion, and on PC we use Tortoise SVN as the client, which is great, but we also have Macs, and I just wondered if anybody knows of a decent client for Subversion on Mac, because I've tried so many and they're all rubbish. Sorry? Sorry? Oh, right. Is it? I think that's the one I've got.
It's
Are
not
there any
very
good free?
no.
Yeah. So would you recommend switching to Git then?
Yeah. I think we'll take that from the consensus of the room that that's what you should do.
I just want to say, anybody that's interested in the whole distributed version control system but is a bit frightened by Git might want to try Mercurial. It's the same. It's the sort of overview model's essentially the same as Git, but I found the commands a little bit easier to get to grips with. I mean, I've since switched to Git actually because of GitHub mostly, but I just wanted to put that one out there. The other thing I want to say is if you've used Subversion a lot, then you probably know how much of a pain in the arse it is to merge stuff back in and branch stuff out. And one of the things that I've found moving to Mercurial or Git is just that branching is so easy and so pain-free that you almost do it by default all of the time.
Any more feedback from the room?
Something I've seen recently is Codebase, which is quite good, but it accepts all repositories for SVN, Mercurial, and Git, so it's quite a good one. You know, that and GitHub are probably the main two, but Codebase is like, I think it's a team in Bournemouth that make it, but yeah, it's pretty good. It's worth checking out. It's a reasonable price.
Great, cheers for that.
Also, if you're using any Eclipse IDE, there should be a Subversion plugin for that as well. Aptana or any of the other IDEs like that.
Cool. Okay, that's just going to bring me on to my last point in this, which is not that. It's free and open source software. In terms of gaining collaboration skills and actually using all of the tools that we've just discussed, I personally think one of the best ways is to actually get involved and contribute to free and open source software, because most projects are using these tools already and you will learn from them. And it's contributions to something that is free, it's your own time, but the actual skills that you gain from it are far more valuable, and they will contribute to your team as well. And that's it. Thanks very much for participating
Thank you, Ben.
and getting involved.
That's brilliant.
And hopefully you pick some up from it.